Hi, so this is the new Morrisby Manager interface. I'm going to talk in this video about home, dashboard and students, and in another interview about the settings cog, which is the spinning wheel up the top. Top left we have your codes. So if you're a school and you profile a whole cohort, you get Morrisby Careers for free. If that's not the case, then you can't really have Morrisby Careers. It's a license based on a whole cohort of students. So that's not available for you. There are new administration guides, Morrisby Profile and the Morrisby Careers, which is interest only. And there's now a Morrisby support site. If I click on this, it takes me off to the UK support site, and there's frequently answered questions, information for advisors, videos for students, a whole bunch of things, including some lesson plans. Now, this is all UK based. If you go to my website, careeranalysts.com.au, under More, we've got Morrisby Support. And here you have Australianised versions of all of these. So under lesson plans, for example, we've got a whole bunch of them. Moving on to Dashboard. This is what was the Statistics tab, and for example we have career suggestions. Click on this, it'll search all the students in the group, and we've just got 2 in this group. Top right, you can change a group, so you can run stats on a smaller group than you would otherwise want to, and it doesn't have to be a year group. You can set your own group. So you could, for example, set a group of high-level maths students or students taking geography or whatever. And that's a new feature with this system. And as with the Stats tab you're familiar with, we have suggestions around careers and degree. Everybody gets suggestions. Then you have favourites for careers and degree. Students have to interact with the site to choose favourites. And then we have subjects selected. And the relevant one for us here is at 16. So students have to interact with the site with that. The one thing that's missing on Dashboard is being able to download the individual scale scores for students. That's now moved to the Profile tab, and you can select your group and download a particular group there. So I'll click on this, and here's just the one student in this particular case. So a learning style sample student. So it gives you all the scale scores. Coming back to students, this is, we'll notice, a bigger change. There are now 2 views of students. This is the product they use, whether it's Morrisby Careers or Morrisby Profile. And profiling mandatory means they've done careers and they've been converted to do Morrisby Profile, because normally students would do Morrisby Careers in the early year, then Morrisby Profile would add the aptitudes a year or 2 later. If they've gone straight to Morrisby Profile, then it looks a little bit different. And of course Morrisby Careers is interest only. What you have here is, for the first time, you have a level sort. Now this is the academic level in the system. If students haven't accessed their results, it's the default level. If they have accessed their results and changed it, whatever is showing there. And it's not sorted by attainment, it's alphabetically sorted. So if we go down here, we can get students down here like unscored VCE, for example, would be at the end, right next to 8R scores. But at least it does group the students according to attainment level for you. The second view is the assessments. This is a little bit different than the version you're used to. You had a percentage complete. What you can see here is actually which assessment the student has done. So this individual, for example, has been through the whole thing, but then the verbal has been reset, and as a result the student can't see their results and you can't impersonate them because their profiling isn't complete. That student would have to log in and finish verbal before their profile is then complete. So grey means you can't get there, dark blue means you can. On the right hand side we have information on the interview, same as you'd find with the 2020 build of the system. So if you want to impersonate a student, you just click on the blue head. Now this is a very different presentation, and there is in the support portal a video, 40-minute video aimed at students unpacking how to approach this information. It's essentially the inputs about me, my choices, the outputs, and kind of all the new stuff around progress. I won't go into this in too much detail, it'll interest some of you more than others, but if we click on About Me, it's exactly the same as it used to be. Interest the same, still the same world of work, just a different presentation style. My choices, very similar to where it was. We do have a couple of things which are additional now. One is strong future growth predicted. Now if we click on this, it tells you it's where the demand is expected, published in June 2021, the Australian Skills Priority List. They categorise careers. It's an imperfect match with the Morrisby careers list, but it ain't bad, saying where they expect future growth to be. And there's also something on whether it's a green or sustainable career. This is not Australian data. This comes from, I think it's America, from the ONET system. Find out about a career, you click on it. We now have more videos, they're more central to the display, everything is scrollable. And the idea is that more and more people are watching from their devices, and we still have the same visuals. And then we have resources, and we now have information on particular jobs linked into Australian job information sites and related careers. So there's a lot more I can go through here. I don't intend to teach you to suck eggs in terms of how you use this. I will point out that there are now search engines, so you can search for an individual career, or you can search for first time buyer family. So let's say you wanted to search in healthcare. You could filter by qualification level. If you don't, you get a lot, and this will be all the careers which are badged healthcare in the system. Very useful, I think, in terms of broadening out search areas. And those categories again, quite a few of them here. Under subjects, same stuff. I won't go into this in any more detail, you can have a play with it yourself. I will talk a little bit more about the interview module. So for example, if you wanted to have a look over here, we have an interview, nothing's been prepared, the student hasn't started anything. Here the notes have been shared with the interview. If we go down and find someone, this is where the careers advisor has added notes, but they haven't been shared with the student yet. So if we take this individual, for example, this EAL student, that is EAL candidate, I go into them, look at locker. Here we can have careers interview, and they can add information in. So you can obviously set this text, and they might want to put some information in here and save it. So the students completed information on that, and I'll just say I thought Morrisby was okay. If we now go back out under EAL student, we can see the person has completed, but the careers advisor hasn't been in to add anything to those notes. To do that, you click on the student's name and click on profile interview. You then claim it and say it was an in-person interview, and date as today. These are the student reflections, and here you can add notes, so you can just start typing, or you can load the template. And if you load the template, you'll find any text that the student put in that you can respond to. So nothing new here. I will point out that with the template, if you share it, then it's visible to the student. If you leave it unshared, the student can't see it. If you share it, it's added to the end of the student report. If it's not shared, it's not added to the student report. Coming back to students, there are a few things you can do on the right hand side. Filters do not require you to have selected anybody. You can just filter by a particular career, whether they have an action plan, whether they favorited courses, whether language is their first language or not, etc. So this will allow you to filter. Equally, there is an actions drop down, Now, for any of these to become live, other than add students, where you can add a student or load a group of students, you need somebody to be selected. So you tick on their name to select them, then everything becomes available. Under Assign to Group, you can assign people to an existing group that you've already created. Remove from group, again, remove them from a group that exists. And a new feature, you can add them to a new group. So in the version you're used to, you had to create the group and then go and add them. Now you can just add them on the fly. So I might just, I'll call this Barry again. So you add those to a group. And when you go and look at group Barry, there's the two in there. And you can remove them from the group just as well. So I'll move them from Barry there. Back to all groups. Select a couple again. Under Actions, you can assign profiling. Never use this. This is something some schools in the UK want to do. They want to pay for their Morrisby profile in something like Year 7 or Year 8 as a single cost to parents. Can't imagine anyone in Australia using this. But Activate profiling is something you do for students who have done the Morrisby Careers product, probably free of charge, and then you want to convert them to the profiling system, Morrisby Profile. If you do this, you have to choose the code that you're going to use. So here we have a code. You would allocate students to that code. You can reset assessments for individuals or for groups. You can activate the vocabulary test and deactivate it. And you can lock and unlock results. I will point out that there are two kinds of lock. There's a yellow one, there's a key here that describes it. So results are locked means that you as the careers advisor have locked their results, or when you do your profiling setup, you've chosen results are locked on completion. You as a careers advisor can very easily just tick the person's name and unlock the results. Account locked is a little different. This is where the candidate has failed to log in 5 times because they've used the wrong login details. If that's the situation, then you need to create a recovery code for them. More on that in different videos. You can generate reports. If we generate these, let's say we generate a student report, what we see is back right, you have a report button, it's flashing. If we click on that, it's generating the reports. And when complete, this can take a while, so don't expect to generate 30 reports in 2 minutes. You need to go away for a cup of tea for that. You can download it and unzip the PDF. Again, under Actions, you can download information. So you can download face-to-face meeting notes. They're different to the interview notes. You can download forms responses if you have Tracker activated. The same for student activities. And student details is where you might want to download information. It's more likely than anything else. So I'll just download those. So here we have the 2 students, and just make these a little bit bigger. If you've created recovery codes, then the recovery codes are listed here. I'll talk about that in a second. So here you can create recovery codes. You might use this because you have tested 100 students. A year later you want to go back in and recomplete the interests or do something else. And of course half of them will have forgotten their login details. First option is to use the forgotten login process, but if they can't, you can create recovery codes. So we generate these, they're available for 2 weeks, and if you then go and download, you'll get recovery codes for both students. You can send an invite email. Now this will generate an email giving student login details, and I'll pull one up that I've prepared earlier. And this is where the student will receive an email from Morrisby, from support at Morrisby, giving them the username and the password to log in. So as soon as you log in, you'll be required to use your password and then immediately change it to one which is private. Equally, you can send password reset emails to students, and you can also assign activities if you have Tracker enabled, and you can email students. One point with emailing students is that the email goes from Morrisby with a do not respond, so you need to identify who you are in the email. So you need to put in your name and your contact details somewhere in the content. There's no record kept of emails that are being sent, so what I find is a lot of schools prefer to use their standard email system rather than using Morrisby for this. But you might, for example, if you decided to lock all the results after a profiling session, then release them at a certain time, you might email all the students at that time and saying, we've just released your results. And it would be as easy to do within Morrisby as it would be from your own email system. Now, there's a lot more to be said here, but I think this gives you a feel of the functionality. There is, if you haven't used Morrisby for some time, there is an online training course that goes through a lot of this information in more detail. So this is meant to be a quick summary to get you going. Thank you.